Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be building this random quote generator, and you're going to learn how you can get a single item from an array and display it to the user. So this data is all coming from an API, and it is actually a front-end coding challenge from DevChallenges. So if you go into devchallenges.io, you can go into the challenges tab right here. You'll have to scroll a bit to the bottom to get the project, but once you get it, it is called random quote. You can click on it, and this is basically what we are building. So what you're getting from the API is the author, the tags right here, and then the quote, and then we have a randomize button here which gets a random quote out of the quotes in the API. And then when I click on this, it's going to randomize and randomize and randomize. And then if I click on the share button, it is going to copy the quote to the clipboard. So I can click on this, and then it is going to show a toast notification right here, which is a TsbSankara component. And then if I were to copy on a new page, you'll notice that that is exactly what I copied from the API, and then I can randomize it and then copy it again. So it is a relatively simple project, but I hope you enjoy it, because from time to time, I like building out these simple projects just to make me feel good. So let's go ahead and begin. So first things first, I have VS Code open here, and I have my terminal open as well. So I'm going to cd into my desktop, and then inside my desktop, I'm going to say pnpx create next app at latest -e, so that I can use a template that I created. So https github.com/sancthomas/next 15-starter. And then you can say enter, and then it is going to prompt us for the name of our application. And I'm just going to call this random quotes, random-quotes, and then enter, and then wait for this to run. And then once it finishes, we can continue. And there we go. So once it finishes running, I'm going to say Codium random quotes -r, so that it is going to open up another instance of VS Codium into the newly created folder, so that we can begin to build our application. And there we go. So inside this template, I have TsbSankara installed, which you can verify by taking a look at the components.json file, where it says that the style that I'm using is New York as opposed to the default styles. The base color that I'm using is the neutral, and the icon library, which is already installed, is called Lucid React, because we're going to need two icons for our application rather. So I'm going to go ahead into the app folder, and then into the page.jsx, and then you know what, let's run our application first. So Ctrl-J to open up your terminal again, and then you can say pnpm dev, which is going to open up our application on localhost 3000. And then as that is opening up, we already know that we're going to need some TsbSankara components. So just open up a second terminal here, and then you can say pnpx TsbSankara add button and Sona. Now Sona is a toast library, or not really a toast library, but a toast component which we're going to be using. So as that is installing, we're going to go into our layout.jsx, because we need to import the toaster inside here. So the toaster component, and that should finish running soon. But if it doesn't, you can simply import it. So import toaster from Sona, like so. And then you can just say, actually you can't save it because it's going to cause an error. I mean, we can save it really, we can just save it even though the error is going to be there, but it's going to go away. So back inside the page.jsx, you can see that now we have the button installed as well as the Sona. Now if you go back into our original terminal, now we have our application running on localhost 3000. So we can open this up, localhost 3000, and there we go. So our default application is running from the template. So now we can begin to build our random quotes. So what we're going to do is, back inside the page.jsx, we're going to simply select everything inside here and remove it. And this component, or this file, is going to be a client component, because somewhere down below we're going to be having an on-click event on a button. So it has to be a client component. So once we say use client on the top, we're going to say export default function home. And then inside here, we're going to set up our state values, because now it's a client component, so we have to use useState and useEffect. So const data and set data is equal to useState. By default, it's just going to be empty like so. and then remember to auto import it. So control spacebar and then import it on the top. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a function to get the quote. So const get quote, I can type, is equal to, and this is going to be an asynchronous function like so. And for now it's just going to be empty so that we can build out the UI fast. But then let's remember to have our use effect, enter to auto import it, pass in our callback function, and then an empty dependency array so that it only runs on the initial render. And then inside here we're going to be calling the get quote function. Now let's build out our return, and our return is going to be as follows. We're going to have a div with a class name of flex and min height dash screen, and then flex call, flex dash column, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center, and then padding on the x of 4. And then inside this div we're going to have another div with a class name of width dash full, and then max width dash large, and then bg is going to be hashtag 20293A. And then you know what, actually let me copy this because Emmet won't work if I do that. So control spacebar and then let me paste in this with hashtag. And then we're going to have padding all around of 6 and a slight box shadow. And then inside this div we're going to have an h1 with a class name of text dash center, and then text dash large, and then font dash semi bold. And then the text is going to say something here, but for now we're just going to say the author. And then control spacebar and then enter. So for now this is just a placeholder, but once we get the data from the API we're going to substitute it inside here. Now below this h1 we're going to have a ul with a class name of margin top of 4, and then margin bottom of 8, and then flex, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center, and then give it a gap of 4. And then inside this ul we're going to have a list item with a class name of rounded dash full, and then border, and then inside here we're going to have border dash is going to be hashtag AEB0FF, and then it's going to have padding on the x of 2, padding on the y of 0.5, and then let's see, we're going to say text dash SM, or the XS, so extra small, and then text dash, what am I typing? Let me close the sidebar. Text dash and then hashtag AEB0FF, and then the list item here is going to say a tag, so we're going to be getting this from the API as well. And then you can copy this list item downwards. This is going to say tag number 2, and I'm recording at a different time that I usually record, so if you're hearing some noise from outside I do apologize for that. But below the UL we're going to have a paragraph, and this paragraph is going to have a class name of text-center, and then text-large, and then text-white with an opacity of 75. Oops. Okay, let's not do that. So text-white, close it out, /75 for the opacity, and then this is going to say the quote. So for now we can just have some lorem ipsum, so lorem 20, and then that is going to be our quote. And then now below this div we're going to have a UL with a class name of margin top of 8, with a class name of flex and items as center, and then justify dash center, and then give it a gap of 4. And then inside this UL, and I wrote it wrongly, this is UL not IL, so UL, we're going to have a list item here. The first one is going to be a button, and this button is coming from components UI button, which is the shardcn component that we installed. And then when you click on this button, then it's going to be calling the get quote function, which we created above but we've not finished it. And then this is going to have a class name of cursor dash pointer, and then bg dash underscore hashtag 20293A. And then on hover we're going to say, hover bg dash hashtag 20293A with an opacity of 75, and then that should be it. We can close out the button, and then the button text is going to say random, and then it's going to be showing an icon here called shuffle, which is coming from Lucid React. So you can import shuffle or shuffle icon, and then you can close that out. And then below this list item we're going to have another list item with a button here, and the button, when you click on this button, is going to be calling a function called copy to clipboard. So copy to clipboard, which is the copy to clipboard function, and then the class names are going to be similar to this. So let's just copy that and paste them here, and then close it out, and then the text is going to say share, and then it's going to be showing the link icon. So link, make sure that you don't import the next link, but you import the link that is coming from Lucid React, like so, and then close it out. Now let's create this function so that we don't have any issues. So we're going to go below the use effect. We're going to say const copy to clipboard. So copy to clipboard is going to be an arrow function, and then inside this arrow function, because it is very simple, and then once we have that, we can save our application, and then let's see what we have on the screen. There we go. So this is basically what we are building, but I have the background color wrong. So let's fix the background color. So let's go into globals.css, and what I've done there is Control P, and then just type in the file that I want so that I can go into that file directly. Now on the bottom, we're going to have the following. So let's change this text. We need to change this. This can remain because this is the font that we're using, and that the dark, we don't need this, we can remove it as well. But we want the background to be bg-#111629, and then the text is going to be white so that we can actually read it. So text white. So save that, and then that should fix our background color. Looking much better. Now let's go ahead back into the page.jsx, and then let's create our getQuote function. So inside getQuote, we're going to have a try catch block. So the try catch block, let's build the error part first because it is very simple. So for the error, we're going to be rendering the toast method, which is coming from Sonar. So make sure that you import it from Sonar like so. So we want to say toast.error because it has an error, and we're going to say that an error occurred. How do you spell occurred? Double R. Okay, when fetching the quotes. I can't even type today. So when fetching the quotes like so, and then we're going to have a description here. So description of the error, which is going to be error.message, because we are getting the error inside here, so you can get the message part of the error, which you can display on the screen, and this can be especially useful when you're debugging. Now we have the toast.error, and then actually that's it for the catch block, but now we can build out the try block. So for the try block, we're going to say const res is equal to await, and we're going to be fetching from an API here, and the data that we get back, so const quotes is equal to await res.json. Now where are we getting this link? Well, if you go into the DevChallenges, when you get to the random quote, you can simply scroll to the bottom a bit, and then you'll get the link right here. So you can simply copy this, but I can't copy that to the end, so let me copy this one in the example. So copy it like so, and if you were to open this on a new tab, then this is what you would get. So basically we're getting back an array of objects, and then we're going to be getting a single object and then displaying it to the screen, because we don't want to display all of them at a go. So let's copy this link, let's paste it inside here. Now if you don't have this link, then simply check the repository and you're going to get it. Now before we can finish our try block, we need to do something else, because we need to filter out and get one single quote. So we're going to say const quote is equal to math.flow, and then math.random, so randomize it, and then multiply this by the quotes.length so that you can get a random item in the array every single time. So quotes.length is going to get every single, or rather the number of them, which is 21 inside here, and then when you randomize it inside here, it's going to get a different quote every single time. So once we do that, then we're going to say the following: const single random quote is equal to, pass in all the quotes which we're getting back inside here, and then pass in the single quote that we're getting back when we randomize it. So when you do that, then we're going to be getting only one single quote, because it is going to be getting the quote by the index, because when you do this, you're getting a number, and that number is going to be equivalent to an index. And then once we do that, then now we can call our state value. So set data into single random quote like so. And then now we can begin to substitute our data. So inside here, inside where we have the H1 for the author, we can now go ahead and say this. If you take a look at the API, you can see that we are getting the author, and then the quote, and then the tags. So instead of just rendering the text that says author, you want to check whether data exists, and then when it exists, then you want to render out the author. So this is called optional chaining, where if you don't get this on the API, then it's not going to throw you an error. Instead it's just going to return undefined. So it is a safer way just to do this. So data dot author, and then for the tag we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to say data dot tags, and then tags is an array, so you can get the elements in the array using dot notation. So tags 0 to get the first item, and then you can copy this, paste it inside here, change this to 1 to get the second item. And then for the quote, we need to remove this. We just want to say data dot quote, because that is what we're getting back from the API dot quote. Probably I should have zoomed in. I don't know, I didn't think about that. Oops. And then once we do that, we can save it so that it substitutes the data, and there we go. So that is the author, this is the first tag, the second tag, and then this is the quote. And then when you click on the random button here, it should randomize and get another quote. Now let's work on the share button, which is very, very simple because we're using the clipboard API, which is built into HTML. So I'm going to say navigator.clipboard.write text. So write text to the clipboard because we are copying it to the clipboard. And what text do we want to write? We want to write the quote. So data dot quote. So write the quote if it exists. And then once you copy to clipboard, we want to show a toast.success message that says copied the quote to clipboard. And then save that. And this is a single P, save it. And then now, if I click on the share button, it shows me a toast that says copied the quote to clipboard. And if I were to go right, let's go below this, I can paste it in, and you can see that that is the quote that is happening inside here. And then if I randomize it again, I can copy the quote again, and if I copy it below, you can see that I'm copying the correct quote. So that is basically the end of the project. Now, if you want access to the code that I've just written, simply go into my GitHub profile, and then inside my GitHub profile, you can go and search inside the repositories, and the repository that you're going to be searching for is called random quotes, or DevChallenges random quotes. So this one right here. So the repository is called DevChallenges random quotes, and you can get the link in the video description as well. Fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed this project. It is a very simple project, but from time to time I like doing these simple projects because, you know, it just makes me feel good. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.